right, it is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. This emergency meeting is being held in accordance with Board Policy 210.3 special meeting. If the special meeting called is an emergency meeting and the board cannot give public notice in its usual manner, the board will give public notice of the meeting as soon as practical and possible in light of the situation. Emergency meetings will only be held on an issue that cannot wait 24 hours necessary for a special meeting. The reason for the emergency meeting and why notice in its usual manner could not be given will be stated in the minutes. Only the purpose or issue for which the special meeting was called may be discussed and decided in the special meeting. The board will strictly adhere to the agenda for the special meeting, and action on other issues will be reserved for the next regular or special board meeting. So I guess I would call for an approval of the agenda as printed. Only having one item.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as printed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carried unanimously. Item on the agenda, consider approval of the social distancing plan. Mr. Craig?
All right, yes, thank you. Thank you, Kyle, and thank you all of you for being here tonight. Just to take care of some business here before we get started. For Kristen's sake, Kristen is taking minutes in place of Kendra tonight, and so you'll need to make sure that you write down who all is in attendance. Is there anyone that you see that you don't know? Okay, and just that way everybody's name, including the people that are online, will be listed in the meeting as in attendance. I want to thank Tony for being here tonight and taking care of the live stream so that our public can view the meeting on YouTube. So thank you, Tony. I appreciate your extra time coming in. We have our curriculum team leaders with us tonight, some of them online and some of them with you here in person. So I want to thank all of those teachers for taking time out of their evening to be a part of this discussion as well. I can't see to the far back of the room. If there's anyone else here that is not a member of the curriculum team or the board, I appreciate all of you being here tonight, and thank you for coming. This project has been only a week in process, and not even a week. But it has been a lot of work to get this done, and it wouldn't have happened without the cooperation of our principals, with our teachers. I believe I forgot there were students invited as well to be at the meeting tonight. I don't know if they're present or not. I can't see that far.
Yes, we do have two.
So we had a couple of students that were invited.
We do have two here, Jamie. Carter Brower
Very
and
good.
Bo
Welcome,
Jennings.
Carter.
Yes.
Yep, very good. Welcome, Logan. I appreciate you coming. It's been about 6 days of research and information gathering and meetings and idea gathering and collaboration to get this done. And in the end, I believe that this plan is going to get at what we're trying to accomplish here, which is to ensure the safety of our staff students, to continue to maintain the high level of educational experience that we expect here at St. Louis Achievement, and to allow continuous participation in athletics and activities. So we're going to get right to it here, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen for those of you that do not have it in front of you. And what I would like to do is go through this just by the sections and have conversations. And once we open it up for discussion, those of you that are on the curriculum leadership team, administration board, the two students that are there, please feel free to ask questions or talk about whatever questions you have. So the new plan will address 5 different areas: breakfast and lunch, classrooms during academic time, performances, athletic events, and transportation. The first is the meals. So for breakfast in all buildings, we'll be creating that 6-foot space between students. If there's not room for everyone to eat, some will either have to wait, some will have to wait, and that may cause some students to be late to their first period of the day, and we'll work with that as necessary and allow some kids for that and make sure everybody has gets to eat. For lunch, we'll be working to spread students out in the elementary. We'll be rotating who can eat lunch in the cafeteria and who needs to go to an alternate space so that we have the kids meeting that 6-foot distance. At middle school lunch, we'll have 2 students per table, and at high school lunch as well. So they will be just across from each other. They won't be able to sit next to each other to maintain the space. The rest of the students in that lunch, if it's in middle school, we'll get them in the library. If it's high school, we'll put them in the gym to eat on the bleachers. Any questions about that plan?
Are any students going to come to classrooms to eat?
Did you hear that, Jamie? Will any students go to classrooms to eat?
No.
At the high school level, I know no.
I think we would like to avoid that just from what was that?
I said at the high school level, no.
I'm sorry, somebody said something.
Yeah, they said, Mr.
And I want to do that at all levels just to keep the mess in one place. I'd rather not go against that policy of food in the classroom unless it's a teacher-approved activity. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to academic classroom time. In grades kindergarten through 6th, teachers are already at the 5th and 6th grade level, and I know Mr. Dennis has been in conversation with teachers down at the elementary building. Classrooms will have students spaced where they're 6 feet apart, and we will move furniture that needs moved, that is used in small group intervention time, and there could be some other things moved around as necessary so that spacing can be achieved, and we will use other open spaces as necessary. So it could be that some students get moved 40 miles to another space. Is Corey there?
Yes.
Okay, so Corey, if you want to talk a little bit about anything you've come up with there.
Just with the elementary?
Yeah.
Teachers have already been starting to ask the questions and starting to figure out the best way to maximize their space. In some classrooms, that's talking about, trying to find some desks to replace the tables that we have. In other classrooms, the talk is kind of removing kidney tables or just seeing how we can get 16, because that's really the number we're looking for right now. It's about 16. The kindergarten is where we're going to struggle the most because they've got 20, 21 kids. And no matter how we, push everything out, there's no way you're going to get 21 kids in there in the capacity of 6 feet. So we're going to have to do some brainstorming on the kindergarten end. But for the most part, we've got some people offering to switch rooms if we have to switch rooms, for a while to kind of get to a bigger room. That's kind of where we're at. Tomorrow will be a busy day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dennis. In grades 7 through 12, again, we're going to have students spaced 6 feet apart. When this is not possible, the plan is take, you know, if a class needs to move 2 students, or 6 students, or 15 students, to get to the point to where they can space out appropriately in the classroom, the overage of students will join their class online, and we will keep those students in the building in a larger location such as the auditorium, for example. So, Mr. DeZeo, would you talk about discussions you've had, right, what we talked about today?
How about I'll move? So we've been talking about how to space so that we can keep as many kids here obviously as possible and in person. The feedback that since we've started having some of the quarantines is that parents want their kids in school. If they wanted them home, they would have chose online learning, which is why that option's there. They like in-person learning better, which I completely agree. It's our online learning is not meant to be in place, but it's meant to support it right now during this time. That's why when the governor's declaration ends, it ends. We know it's not the same as in person, but for those uncomfortable, it can do that. For those that want to be here, how can we do that? So the biggest thing I've gotten from parents is they want their kids here, but then on the other hand, we're hearing social distance, put half of them here and go set half of them in the gym each day. Well, I don't like that. I don't think that's a great plan. So what we've been working on is the classrooms where they can't all fit. So tomorrow they'll work on what's the most you can get in socially spaced. When you go over that, the suggestion was send half of them somewhere. Well, why do we need to do that? If I can get 16 kids in my classroom and I have 17, why do I need to send half of them away? So through a lot of work and suggestions from others, if I have 17 in my classroom and I can fit 16, I shouldn't have to take half of them away. So half of them go online today while the other half's here, and then tomorrow they switch. Why don't we do something like send one person away, rotate through, then they come back the next day and it's another person. That way that person's only missing class in person once every 16 days compared to every other. If I have 20 in my class and I can get 16 in, then we send 4 away to do that a day. That way we get as many bodies in the seats in the classroom with the teacher as possible. It's going to take a lot of coordination. Some of the other things to consider, the places where we can't get everyone in the classroom, if we'd send half of them away, we don't have enough spaces to send them. Because I'm not going to combine classes, then when half of them's going away to the auditorium, I'm not putting 7th and 8th grade and high school English in there at the same time. That makes no sense. If we can do it so that 2 are from here and 3 are from here, we can probably make that work then. I was running some numbers. These are just some estimates. But at the 7th and 8th grade level, roughly, if everyone was here, and this is not taking into account online learners, I'm just talking about every person. And the initial spacing, we're going to work on it tomorrow and we can maybe even get better than this. But it would be just over 30 kids in any given period between all the classes at 7th and 8th grade that would have to leave, versus if we did half of them when they were over the space, it'd be about 60. Okay, I'm rounding a little bit, but it's about 26 different. That's 26 kids more that can be in the class each period. At the high school level, I just did it for all the periods, but to get the averages between all the classrooms, I ran two different hours. Second hour, it was going to be at least 76 kids missing if we sent half the kids out, and it dropped down to about 56 if we just went over. I did it on another hour. It was over 90 kids leaving if we went half and half, and that number dropped in half to 45 if we just did who's over. So I think we can get more kids in the classroom if we do it this way.
Thank you, Mr. DeZeo. And that's an important point. So we want to, as we figure out ways these kids apart and move kids around, we want teachers to have access to their things. We want classes to be in the classroom. We want to maximize that in-person learning. shares that around with everybody instead of having a certain group of kids. So to help.
I should add, Mr. Craig.
In the example that I provided, I have 8 periods in a day. So my first, 4th, and 7th period classes, there's too many kids, so we can't spread apart. What's that?
I said I should add, we do have some classes at the high school level when they're required that are full.
Did somebody?
So they might go every other day out just because there's 30 kids in there. But for the most part, we can reduce the numbers as best we can. There are a few classes where there's going to be a significant number each day moving just because the size of the roster at that class.
There must be a huge delay.
Probably, if you've got 32 kids in a class, 16 of them are probably going to go out.
Right.
And that's going to rotate every other day. That's a good thing.
Right.
Well, I am trying to wait to make sure I don't step on anybody, but it's hard when I can't. Okay, so for example, my first, 4th, and 7th period classes have too many students in them and social distance. So in those classes today, I might be in the auditorium first, 4th, and 7th hour, and tomorrow somebody else or another group of students from my classes are going to switch to the auditorium, and I'm going to be in person. So we rotate that around, and I'm not gonna be out of the classroom every other day unless we're in that situation where there's somebody in the class. However, my 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 8th period classes, they are small enough that we can fit the classroom without anybody having to move out. So we're social distance. I can attend those classes in person each day. So this procedure, again, is going to help us maximize in-person instruction, in-person learning, and then equitably distribute the online learning situation to students as needed. We'll be dismissing high school at the end of 8th hour. The required success period will be eliminated until further notice. Teachers will still be available for students to get help or make up work as long as the work can be done more than 6 feet apart, but we will not be having the standard success period with a teacher monitoring students until the end of the day. The middle school success periods will still take place, but students will be divided accordingly when social distancing is not possible. And then what Mr. DeZeo mentioned earlier about families who have elected online learning for their students now will continue that through the end of the disaster proclamation or until they elect to have their children return to school, whichever happens first. Questions or comments or thoughts about the academic classroom time section?
I guess I do have a question.
For those of you that are online, please unmute.
As far as input from building leaders, I'm assuming that everybody's on board with this, and I guess I'm asking that question.
Oh, okay. I think, yeah.
Sorry.
Not everyone knows that yet because we've been working on it.
Okay.
They knew we were going to do something,
Okay.
and they knew we were dividing them out. The specifics they don't all know, but a lot of the curriculum team, I got to at least explain a little bit of it,
Okay.
and I haven't heard anyone that said that won't work. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody's had a chance to read it, but they haven't necessarily had the chance to ask all the questions that they might have. This is the time to do that. And students group, Bill and Carter, you guys have any questions, or maybe your friends are texting you questions or anything?
I've got one. So if I were to go online and I have 2 shop classes, would I still be allowed to come back and work for those, like on the concession stands?
What do you mean by go online though?
Like if I were to do all my classes online.
If you chose them online,
Yeah.
then no.
Like not quarantine.
Not quarantine. If you chose online, no, because it's either you got to be all here or in person.
What about if you chose to do online, would you be able to participate in sports?
Yes.
Any activity.
Good questions. Any other questions? Nancy?
Well, and I think too, you know, we've got different dates with kids coming back, and, you know, if we lose more and some come back, so how many need to go out, it's gonna be a fluid, could change daily with who's coming back and who might be leaving, so it might be a little challenging, but we'll figure that out, how we can still keep the most in there. But it might not be the same number every day.
Correct.
Now, I will say that the end goal here is that we're not gonna have to quarantine any students, because of close contact. Only the students that are confirmed positive will have to go home. Now, there will be, and in talking with public health today, I wanted to make sure that I had this information right, because that's not gonna happen on Monday. The plan hopefully will be implemented on Monday. So we will not be out of the quarantine until the end of next week, the possibility of quarantine. And that's simply because we've had these seating charts, we've been in this order. We may still have positive tests come back next week that would affect, remember, you know, from the test, you go back to the symptoms and then 48 hours before that. So we may still have a few quarantines next week, but starting Monday, October 5th, we should be able to say that virtually no one will have to quarantine. There are no guarantees. There is no perfect solution. But this is, and public health said this, if you can guarantee 6 feet of space everywhere, you'll never have to contact us. So there's gonna be that hangover period next week where there could be some effects yet. But then again, starting October 5th, we shouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts about this?
So will this be
We want to make sure that everybody,
will this be a
Yeah, go ahead.
situation you'll monitor weekly, bi-weekly, or like how it's progressing,
Daily.
how it's working, daily?
yep, because we'll have to be monitoring which students are going into the online learning situation. They're being pulled out of class because of class size. We're gonna have to monitor, you know, how those kids are moving and are we spreading that around, or, you know, we're gonna have to watch classrooms, make sure that we are social distancing, that it's staying intact. You know, for a while, until we get the pattern down, we're gonna be watching it all the time. Once we get into the routine, whatever we wanna call routine, then it will be easier to monitor. But for the first little bit, we're all gonna have to help each other because it's going to be confusing and like you said, like Nancy said, you know, with different kids coming in and out over the next 2 weeks yet. Yeah, it's going to be confusing and we're gonna have to help each other get through it.
So you're gonna know ahead of time what student is probably gonna go? Starting Monday,
Well,
or how you don't know for sure?
yes and no.
Cause I can see a little confusion if the kids
There-
coming in right away.
There
saying,
is going to be that first day, and well, whether
First
we'll have a
couple
list or
days
not. But
probably.
also on Monday, I don't know how much we're going to need to. because we have enough kids gone.
Right.
So that's why I say yes and no, because I haven't, to run the list and plan it's another thing, and then to figure out which kids are back on Monday and which aren't. And I've done that where that's part of the reason we don't school tomorrow, so we can start
Sure.
planning and doing that tomorrow with the staff that are in the rooms who can better plan for that.
I have a question. So will we need a hard and fast seating chart? Or
In
somebody-
theory, no.
Somebody who sits here is at the ortho, so, oh, that's an available seat, come on in.
Absolutely.
Or, okay.
Someone's sick and not
Cause if we're, as long as we're.
not because of COVID, but
Yeah. Or as long
get
as
the
we're
flu.
6 feet, we can move them around and get as
Correct.
many in that day.
correct.
So we just get as many seats ready tomorrow.
So you needed to send 3 out, but 3 didn't show up because they left for cross country.
Yep,
I'm good right now.
okay, got it.
So the kids that all leave, if they're in the auditorium, will there be multiple kids from multiple classes?
Yes.
Will you have to have somebody staffing that?
We will. We don't have an
Okay.
answer for that left because we
Yeah.
don't have spare staff. That's what
was
we have to
what I-
work on yet.
Okay.
What about parent volunteers?
That's one of the options that we'll probably need, because right now at the high school level, we're really short with pairs and special ed with staffing situations. Let's just put it that way. No one's fault. And they need their services, so you can't just pull them to do that.
Yep.
We have teachers teaching every period.
Yep.
Who's left? I don't know if they want me just standing there all day, so.
Yep.
Then we'll have to find a solution to that.
And will they need headphones? Cause if you have,
Who-
I'm guessing they'll be online learning.
Oh, the student, I'm sorry,
So
the
the
student.
student
Yeah,
will
but
need-
yes, potentially, correct.
Just cause that's things that all the kids have to think of to
Right.
have with them.
They do.
'cause the ones that are
It's gonna
home
put
right
more
now-
responsibility on
Yeah.
some kids, but those are, I think, risks that are worth it for us to be able to do this. But yeah, they'll definitely have to be responsible.
And I think we'll have to watch too, won't we, like, we don't want Sally and Fred going out 4 periods a day if we can help it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sally and Fred volunteer every class to go out. We don't want that to happen. So they're never in the classroom all day.
Yeah, I don't know, from what I understand, it's not a volunteer situation.
No, I know.
Yeah.
The teachers would
Yep.
control, they could
Yep.
rotate through who.
Yep.
And if students don't have access to headphones, and can't bring any with them, we can provide them. We don't have stock right now, we can order some, but, we obviously don't want students sharing headphones, so it's not something they're gonna be able to check out from the office and return. They need to have their own set. Okay, other thoughts, questions, sir?
I guess I would make a comment as a board member. Thank you for all the work you guys have done in coming up with this plan. Superintendent, administration, building leaders, teachers, staff, everybody that's going above and beyond to try and get kids in school, which is what everybody wants. So thank you for what you've done.
We appreciate that, thank you very much. All right, if there's no more comments, then we're gonna move on. Performances. Right now, we have to avoid mass gathering, at all possible. And so all music performances that we have will take place virtually, with no audience until further notice, and all performances will continue to be live streamed so they can be watched on YouTube. The only things that are exempt for this is marching band, if they perform a football game, the marching band show at the end of the season, they'll be able to space out, and we will encourage social distancing and masks for our patrons in the stands that come to watch that event. Unfortunately, due to copyright laws, we cannot live stream the musical. And with many students quarantined over the past 2 weeks that have prevented the musical from having rehearsal, the usual timeline to get the we can get it on the calendar, there are plenty of dates available. I know Ms. Burns and Mr. Carlson have visited about, scheduling with Mr. Carlson being the spring sport coach. But they're gonna be able to make that work, so, we will be postponing the fall meeting. At athletic events, we continue to strongly encourage social distancing and masks for our spectators. It just is part of the gig and, something that we need folks to take responsibility for and do. The Siouxland Conference has set a specific set of attendance guidelines, based on the fact if a county has over 20% positivity rate, then we're going to limit spectators at indoor events. So when that comes up, there will be tickets or wristbands available, and the procedure for how people can get those tickets will be shared. So you'll be able to come, you'll still have to pay to get into that event, but you will have to have a wristband or the appropriate ticket in order to get admission, whether here or there. And this is an important concept, because while that's not what we want everybody to be able to come and support the generals. We have schools now that have canceled games with us because we have such a high positivity rate that they are not affected right now, and they're worried about bringing it into their district. So they have said, we don't want you to, we're canceling the game. And so in the end, we're getting to play the game, we're getting to have somewhat of a crowd in a place that we can space out, and we need people to take advantage of the opportunities that they have, that we still get to have these events, and we don't have to cancel. We will be putting in social distancing for the football and volleyball players. X's will be marked on the football sideline. The bleachers will be marked in the player seating area for volleyball, both for home and away teams. Also, the scorer's table will have an area marked for officials to social distance, and spectators will have to sit outside those marked areas. We do encourage folks to bring their smartphones to the games and scan a QR code so that they can get access to a program without having to take a paper program. The QR code connects to a program called Varsity Bound, which has rosters along with stats, game scores, and other related items, as well as historical information that's accessible. It's a great app and provides so much more detail than the paper roster does anyway. So we encourage people to do that. You just have to take your camera, put it on the QR code, and it gives you a link to click on. It's very slick. So we encourage people to take advantage of that. Finally, the transportation statement just continues what we already have in place. It's a reminder that we are not changing those things.
Are you gonna
Any
continue?
questions about athletic?
Are you gonna continue doing the volleyball? Have you ever thought about trying the football?
About doing what with football?
Football online?
Streaming it, you mean?
Yep.
We stream every home football game.
Oh, you do?
All the varsity ones.
Yep.
Yep.
I didn't hear the question, right?
We got it answered.
Okay. Okay, again, the timeline of this is very, very short, and something that we have to get done. But I do want to make sure that everybody has had a chance to answer their questions, and I know, or ask their questions, and I know I've said that several times, and we've waited and had several long pauses. But this is the opportunity to throw rocks at this and find the holes so that we can get them closed up. That work starts tomorrow. We want to make sure that we're focused so that we can get the most out of the day tomorrow, and we can be ready to go with this on Monday. So before I make my recommendation, I would again encourage any questions, comments, or concerns.
Any comments, questions, concerns? Quiet as a mouse here.
Okay, if there are none, then my recommendation is to approve the modifications to the return to learn plan through the social distancing measures presented.
I move to approve the modified return to learn plan updated statement.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the modified return to learn plan with the social distancing stipulations as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion passed unanimously. Any other questions, comments? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you
Aye.
very much. We are adjourned.